It was the kind of scream that no one forgets. High, terrified, then muffled, then nothing. At 2:37 a.m., a fragile silence was torn apart inside Melrose Gardens, a modest apartment building tucked in the heart of Brooklyn. Most residents were asleep. A few were awake, scrolling, gaming, drifting. But in that moment, across 12 separate apartments, 12 different people paused, hearts skipping beats, breath catching mid-chest. They heard her. They all heard her. But no one picked up a phone. By morning, Emily Reyes, a bright 26-year-old graduate student, was found dead, barefoot, face down in her living room, the TV flickering in static behind her, blood dried into the hardwood beneath her hand. Like a question mark that would never be answered, the maintenance worker who discovered her body wept when he was let out by police. What no one knew that morning, what no one wanted to believe, was that Emily had fought hard. She had screamed until her throat gave out, slammed her fists into walls, kicked over chairs, and shattered a mug trying to defend herself. And 12 people heard her die. 12. Emily Reyes had only lived in Melrose Gardens for 6 months. But in that short time, she'd become the kind of tenant landlords prayed for, polite, on time with rent. She was earning her master's in criminal psychology at NYU, writing a thesis on the psychology of predators. She never imagined she was living next to one. Her life was small and simple. Books stacked in uneven towers by her bed, a coffee pot that took too long, sunflower magnets on the fridge. She talked to her mother every night, religiously, and in those last few weeks, her voice began to change. She was scared, not in the obvious, dramatic way, but in the subtle, instinctive way that animals sense an earthquake before it strikes. She told her mom. She thought someone had been in her apartment, that small things had moved, that the air in her home suddenly felt off, but there was no proof, just a feeling. And on the night she died, her final text read, "Someone knocked on my door. I'm scared." She never got a response. When Detective Lena Ortiz arrived at the scene, the smell of iron and stillness told her more than any witness could. Emily's body was stiff, her hair soaked in blood. But what struck Ortiz wasn't the brutality, it was the intimacy. No forced entry, no missing items, just pure, calculated violence. Someone knew Emily, or knew how to get to her. One by one, the residents were questioned. 12 said they heard something. Mrs. Callahan, 73, admitted she turned up the volume on her late-night talk show. "I thought it was the neighbors again," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I didn't want to get involved." Jared, a young guy in 3C, said he paused his game and took off his headphones when he heard the scream. But then he just sat there, frozen, waiting for someone else to act. Sasha in 2B said something that stuck with the detective. "There are always noises in this building. You can't call the cops for every bump in the night." None of them knew Emily well. She smiled in the hallway, kept to herself, but they all remembered that scream. And still, not one person made the call. The most disturbing statement came from Nathan Bell, a 34-year-old man living in 5C. He told police he was asleep, then said he heard a noise, maybe a cat or something falling. He looked Ortiz in the eye and said, "You live in New York long enough. You learn to mind your business." But he never asked what happened, never asked who had died. Instead, he said something chilling. She always looked like she knew something was coming, like she was expecting it. Ortiz felt the hairs on her neck rise. A few days later, Jared returned to precinct, his face pale, jaw tight. "I lied," he said. "That night, I saw someone standing at her door. A man, hoodie. He looked right at me through the peephole. It was Nathan, and he had a key. With a warrant, police searched Nathan Bell's apartment. At first, there was nothing unusual. A clean bachelor setup. Bookshelves, a couch with no cushions out of place. Until Ortiz opened the closet. Behind a panel screwed into the back wall, they found 2 boxes. Inside, dozens of mini DV tapes, all labeled by date. He'd been filming for years. Hallways, doorsteps, some inside units. One tape, just days before the murder, showed him kneeling at Emily's door, picking the lock. He'd been inside her apartment more than once. One camera was found inside Emily's vent, disguised as a dusty old screw. It faced her bed. She never knew, but the most horrifying discovery was a tape labeled Emily_final. It had no video, only sound. It started quietly, footsteps, a key turning, a door opening, then Emily's voice. Hello? Who's there? A pause, then panic, a scream, the sound of a struggle, a mug shattering, a chair scraping across the floor. Then her final gasp. The silence that followed was suffocating. Ortiz had to leave the room halfway through the playback. Nathan Bell was arrested for murder, burglary, and unlawful surveillance. He showed no emotion during the trial. His defense tried to argue mental illness, obsession, loneliness twisted into something monstrous. But the tape showed intent, calculation, predatory behavior, and worse, 2 more women from previous apartment buildings had filed complaint about strange noises and someone watching them before they turned up dead. Those cases were reopened. Patterns emerged. He chose buildings with thin walls. He knew people wouldn't call. Fear, apathy, confusion. He relied on the silence of others as his cover. And in Emily's case, it worked. The jury didn't take long. Guilty on all counts. After the verdict, Rosa Reyes stood outside the courthouse and faced a sea of cameras. She held a small sunflower in her hand, Emily's favorite. My daughter didn't die because she was weak, she said. She died screaming while people listened and told themselves it wasn't their problem. You don't have to be a monster to let evil win. You just have to be quiet. Her voice cracked. I hope they hear her scream forever. Today, Emily's apartment sits empty. It's been cleaned, repainted, staged for potential renters. But no one takes it. Tenants say there's a coldness in the air, like the walls remember. Some nights. People claim they still hear something in the hall around 2:30 a.m. No one opens their door. No one makes a call. Because maybe that's the real horror. Not the killer, not the crime, but the truth that deep down, we might not be any different. For more contents like this, hit the subscribe button, like and share.